Greetings, kindred. Wow, can't believe it's the full moon. Actually, the last 2 weeks have gone pretty slow. Normally they go really, really quick. But it seems to have dragged on a little bit over the last 2 weeks. But I feel it's been quite productive though. And yeah, so I'm actually recording this on the 26th. Full moon takes place on the 28th here in the Western world. In the Eastern, it's on the 29th. But anyway, let's get into it. So the full moon will reach its peak in Virgo in the true lifetime sky at 19:48 in the GMT time zone, at 14:48 in the EDT time zone, and on the 29th of March at 5:48 in the AEDT time zone. So the moon in Virgo, normally that can create a lot of nervous energy. And I just feel like there's a lot of restlessness at the moment. Maybe people can't sit still for 5 minutes, it's that kind of energy. But it's also, it can be a very irritating energy as well. Especially with our sun in opposition in Pisces at 16 degrees. This can be a very competitive energy. But if used positively, it can be very constructive, and it's really gives a lot of force to the energy itself. But with the moon at 14 degrees, this is more about the forces of nature. It's a conserving number. It has, a great deal of power, especially for the organic world, when it comes to art, anything really creative, so there's a powerful energy here for creativity, but it can also become very competitive. So that's something we need to watch out for, especially since our sun is conjunct Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So if we do find ourselves being competitive or, a little bit negative, then we just need to really go within ourselves and get to the root of that feeling. And sometimes it's a stagnant energy that needs to be released, and the way we can release that is through really voicing, being creative with our voice. Even if we don't sing, we can do ohms, or we can do prayers or chanting, anything along those lines. I just feel there's this release that's needed to become more creative positively and productively. We have got Venus conjunct Chiron. That's a very creative energy as well. But Venus can also be quite materialistic at times. Venus has two faces. So we really need to go within and really express ourselves positively. Even, it doesn't have to be publicly, just whatever lights your fire, and I'll get into that in a minute, because I was talking about us lighting our fires at the new moon. And that T-square between the nodes and the goddess Vesta, that's formed back into a grand cross. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. So we also have the goddess Ceres in Pisces conjunct Venus and Chiron. And moving away from the sun though. And the goddess Ceres, she's all about nurture and harvesting. She's a very maternal energy. But again, she's at 22 degrees, and 22 is a master number. But, we can only reach that level of enlightenment, the 22 frequency, by overcoming our self-limitations or old wounds, or, feeling a little bit earthbound. So, it's like pushing beyond the negative aspects that this little stellium in Pisces creates, because it is putting a lot of pressure on our moon in Virgo. Virgo does rule the nervous system. So, it might be time just to do some deep breathing and maybe a little bit of meditation, just to gain a little bit more clarity. Because our sun is also in trine to the south node who's in Ophiuchus. And, the south node in Ophiuchus is actually at 5 degrees. Now, 5 degrees is it can be a repetitive number, or it's a number of reproduction. It's also about harvesting, but it's also about justice. Now, Ophiuchus is a sign of revelation. It's a sign of ascension. So with Mars Mars has just crossed over the North Node in Taurus. And, the North Node is at 19 degrees. 19 is all about youth. It's all about children. It's all about the inner child. So with Mars crossing over the North Node, it's also very triggering. I mean, Mars is at 21 degrees. And, that's a number of elevation, advancement, achievement, etc. So we're all being triggered to raise our vibration. The North Node is all about our destiny and fate, not just on an individual level, but collectively and globally. But in Taurus, it is all about pleasure and security, normally financial security. And Venus is actually the ruler of Taurus. So Venus being conjunct Chiron and the Sun and the goddess Ceres is definitely being activated as well in this respect. It can be a very romantic energy, as long as we're not over-idealizing our abilities or our truth, our self-truth. Because the North Node, like I said, it's tied up in this Grand Cross. Now, the Grand Cross originally was between the nodes and the goddess Vesta and Neptune. But now it's shifted. It shifted at the new moon, where the nodes just become the T-square towards Vesta. But now it's reformed into a Grand Cross. But now, instead of Neptune being involved in this Grand Cross, the goddess Pallas is involved. And the goddess Pallas is at 9 degrees in Aquarius. Now, the Aquarian energy, that's higher consciousness, ruled by Uranus, who's in Aries at the moment, at 10 degrees. So again, Mars is the ruler of Aries. So I definitely feel like some of us can be too much in our heads, because we are coming towards an ending of a cycle with the goddess Pallas being at 9 degrees. When it comes to our foresight, when it comes to recognition and seeing the bigger picture and what's at play in the world for humanity. Aquarius is all about humanitarianism. So Mars and the North Node and the South Node are all in square to the goddess Pallas, and the goddess Pallas is in opposition to the goddess Vesta, who's at 20 degrees in Leo. And Leo is ruled by the sun. It's all about our passion. So the goddess Vesta is all about passion. It's all about our inner temple and what lights our fire. It's about keeping the fire burning, keeping the passion going. So there has to be a compromise here between what we're passionate about and the bigger picture of what we're seeing going on with humanity right now. And the nodes and Mars crossing the nodes, I mean, it's a very triggering time at the moment. So it's a balance between the heart and the mind, which is going on right now. I mean, with the goddess Pallas being in Aquarius, it can be a very telepathic energy as well. So we could be picking up on other people's thoughts. Or we could just be sensitive, you know, so it can cause a little bit of paranoia as well. So we just have to be careful of that, because we've got Mercury, who's all about the mind, you know, conjunct Neptune. And Neptune is at 23 degrees, Mercury is at 21. Again, in Aquarius. So, you know, we just have to be careful that we're not too much in our heads and too much off planet. But with the Mars crossing over the North Node in Taurus, I really do feel that triggering energy is bringing us back down to earth, bringing us into reality. And, you know, the South Node being at 5 degrees in Ophiuchus, well, you know, 5 can also be, in its negative aspect, 5 can be the number of plagiarism, like fraud. And I have been seeing a lot of my metaphysical sisters out there having their YouTube channels frauded and, you know, cloned and, you know, basically frauded off. And I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I'm just like in disbelief because, you know, I just feel this is going to be exposed, or the people behind that will be exposed. So, you know, Ophiuchus is a big energy. I mean, also, you know, Ophiuchus is a threefold energy. Ophiuchus is a threefold sign. But, you know, also with the Ophiucan energy, you know, when she's good, she's very, very good. But when she's bad, she's horrid, you know? So that little rhyme about the girl with curl, that is Ophiuchus. But we also have the goddess Juno at 15 degrees in Ophiuchus. And this is all about traditional values, you know, especially when it comes to the domestic front. And the goddess Juno, I mean, she seeks justice wherever she can. So again, you know, I feel that this energy is going to be, there's going to be some kind of revelation. And it could also be in the political arena. So our moon in opposition to Venus, that creates a conflict, you know, of giving and receiving. And, you know, are we giving too much to others? Do we need to pull back a bit? Are we giving our power away? Do we feel empowered? Because I feel this full moon is letting go of everything that's occurred this last year, because I feel the story's now going to change a little bit. You know, I did say last year that many people were being forced into this big awakening. But it wouldn't be, you know, all in one go. It was going to be in bouts. And I feel that we're going through another bout now. You know, I mean, there's a major awakening happening in December, on December the 4th. You know, when we have a solar eclipse in Ophiuchus. And if we look back to last December, when we had the solar eclipse in Ophiuchus, I mean, that was major. And so was the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that happened soon after. So last year was, you know, there was a lot of conjunctions and solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, more so than any other year. We had so much going on last year. I mean, 2020 was a major, major year. And 2021 is more about, you know, seeing it play out in the physical reality. because last year it was all going on. You know, like I said, it was like the serpent energy was rumbling underneath our feet. Bit like earthquakes. Last year was all about earthquakes. This year's all about volcanic eruptions. And I think we're going to see a lot go on in the public arena globally. And Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Aries is the protector of the underdog, you know. Aries is a very military sign. Well, talking of military, we've got Saturn now at 11 degrees in his own sign of Capricorn. So Saturn's very much in his power right now. But Saturn is very authoritative. And he is now becoming the master of authority. We can master being our own authority, following our own hearts, following our own passions, understanding, you know, our own morals and principles, and not being pressured, you know, like peer pressured into other people's beliefs or other people's rules or regulations. This is all about us getting into our own self-power. And the sun, this full moon, is actually giving us the energy to do that. And so is the moon in Virgo. We just mustn't become obsessed with the details. You know, just let it flow. Be creative, but be very aware. You know, but the sun is in a quincunx aspect to the goddess Vesta. So there definitely needs an adjustment there. And I think that adjustment is with Chiron conjunct the sun. You know, because it's very triggering. The quincunx aspect is very triggering. So we may feel less empowered. And because it's in Pisces, the sun is in Pisces conjunct Chiron. Pisces is an energy that is very absorbing of environmental conditionings. It's a very psychic energy. So that's why we have to build on our inner strength. You know, empower ourselves, become more confident in ourselves and what our belief structures are. Because like I said, the South Node at 5 degrees in Ophiuchus, there is this element of fraud or plagiarism or, you know, being misled. But this serpent energy is very, very strong right now as well. When it comes to like justice and breaking free of the more modern rules and regulations, taking it back to nature, taking it back to the organic way of living. And it can be a bit of a chaotic energy. We all come into this world as sovereign beings. And, you know, it's our God-given right to think for ourselves, to empower ourselves, as long as it's in a positive, constructive way. And I feel that's what this full moon is all about this month. There's a lot of triggers going off at the moment, and I feel even on the build up to this full moon, it's been a very triggering energy. But I really do feel, you know, the South Node in Ophiuchus is deliberately triggering that energy to bring things out into the open. And it's an ideal time for that because the goddess Pallas in Aquarius is giving us the foresight and the wisdom as we close this cycle. So keep yourselves grounded, but don't be too focused, you know. Try and just flow with the energies, because as much as there's a lot of stuff going on in the public arena, there's just so much positivity here, especially for people that are already aware, for people that are already in their creative pursuits or grounded in their own self-power. It's a very positive energy. Yeah, just keeping the faith and sending you all peace and much love.